U DM-i is BYD's first attempt at a hybrid, a PHEV that aims to broaden the brand's sales base beyond EVs. It's possibly not the most exciting or engaging segment choice you could make, but value and practicality are both strong points that make this family car worthy of consideration if you're looking at electrification but aren't quite ready for an electric vehicle.
It's a little-known fact that BYD was the first manufacturer to mass-produce a PHEV, a model called the F3 DM back in 2008 that hardly anyone bought. But the Chinese learn quickly, and BYD can justifiably claim cutting-edge plug-in hybrid technology with this Seal U DM-i. The mid-range front-driven comfort spec version can claim an EV range of up to 78 miles from its 26.6 kilowatt-hour battery, before a frugal, normally aspirated 1.5-litre petrol engine cuts in as you cruise past the queues at your local charging station. Still want that EV? This is one of three very different versions of the DM-i powertrain. There's an entry-level model badged Boost, confusingly because its four-cylinder engine is also normally aspirated. This variant, the one we're trying here, uses the same 215 brake horsepower Atkinson cycle unit as the Comfort model, aided by a single e-motor on the front axle and tuned for economy at low speeds. Boost spec, though, mates this unit with a smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery pack with a still reasonable EV range of 50 miles. There's an EV or HEV button between the seats, so you can force battery power if charge permits it. The other Seal U DM-i model is the top design spec version, tuned very much for performance. Here, the 1.5-litre engine gets a turbocharger and switches to the Miller cycle, aimed at high-speed frugality. Plus, an extra e-motor is added to the rear axle to create all-wheel drive. Power jumps to 319 bhp, improving the 8.9-second 0-62 mile-an-hour sprint time you get with the front-driven models to just 5.9 seconds. The design version supplements the usual Eco, Normal, Sport and, curiously named, Snowfield drive modes with extra mud and sand settings too. The battery on offer is the smaller 18.3 kilowatt-hour one and is supposed to deliver up to 43 miles of EV range. You'll find the drive experience to be very EV-like. The complicated powertrain ensures that there's always a minimum battery charge of at least 25%. But don't expect the engaging driving dynamics we told you about with the Seal EV Saloon. With a curb weight of 1,940 kilos, this is a heavy car and feels it if you start to push the thing through the bends in the kind of manner a typical owner hardly ever would. But does any of this really matter? Sure, other PHEVs in this segment drive more rewardingly than this, but we've yet to try one that felt especially dynamic. And that's fine, because the target family market doesn't really need that. These people will appreciate the more important attributes that BYD has engineered in here. A supple quality of ride and excellent refinement, aided by the thermally insulated windscreen. When it happens, the switch between EV and combustion power is seamless as well. A choice of regen braking settings is provided, standard and high, though even in the latter setting the regen isn't particularly fierce, so one pedal driving isn't on the agenda. The brakes are well modulated too. Ultimately, as we said, it really does feel like an EV much of the time, just one better suited to the years we're currently living in. After the avant-garde design that characterised the Seal EV Saloon, the Seal U DM-i is surprisingly conservative to look at, though the Chinese maker insists that it's fashioned using the same ocean aesthetics design language, which is supposedly highlighted by a prominent belt line that runs from the headlamps to the BYD Tech badged tail lights. The 4,785mm length is 15 less than the EV Seal Saloon, but long by segment standards. A Ford Kuga PHEV, for instance, is 140mm shorter, and a VW Tiguan e-Hybrid is a massive 246 shorter. There are subtle aluminium roof rails, the chrome framing around the glasshouse looks neat, and there's silver finishing for the lower sill that separates the larger, drag-resistant 19-inch bicolour alloy wheels. Horizontal lines stretch across the nose, which has smart LED headlamps with a double U-shaped illuminating signature and staggered light clusters. Let's take a look inside. Where the cabin's more conservatively styled than is the case with other BYD models we've seen, which we can't help preferring. It's got the usual signature BYD touch, a huge centre screen that rotates between landscape and portrait formats. But this cabin feels of rather better quality than that of the other BYDs we've tried, notably the Seal EV saloon we tried last year, which is ironic given that this U DM-i model is so much cheaper. It further helps that it also feels pleasantly plush in the single well-stocked standard of spec that you have to have. Nice touches include the crystal gear lever, the green stitched fascia, concealed ambient lighting on the dash and doors, and prominent twin silver centre vents. There's an instrument screen, of course, this one 12.3 inches in size, and as usual with Chinese models, rather busy with information around the two outer dial spaces for a power meter on the left and a speedometer on the right. We mentioned the big centre screen, a class-leading 15.6 inches in size. You'll probably soon get bored of rotating it, but you might find the way that you can split the screen between functions or shrink the centre of it useful. Right, the long wheelbase should mean that there's plenty of rear cabin space, so let's check that out. Sure enough, legroom is generous with space for up to 3 adults thanks to the flat floor. The seat base doesn't slide, but the backrest reclines, and there's an airy feel thanks to this standard panoramic glass roof. At the rear, the standard powered tailgate rises to reveal a 425 litre boot that's one of the smaller cargo bays in the class and isn't supplemented with any extra underfloor space to store the charging cables, so they have to slide around a bit on the boot floor. Once everything's retracted, the seat bases don't fold fully flat, but up to 1,440 litres of space can be freed up. This Seal U DM-i may not have a very interesting name, but it's got a more than interesting value proposition and super affordable running costs. Press reaction to this car has been somewhat lukewarm, but that's mainly because, unlike the Seal EV, it isn't very interesting to drive. But then, what car in this class is? Prospective segment customers want a lowering rather than a raising of the heartbeat, something the smooth powertrain of this refined, comfortable BYD impressively delivers. You'll enjoy commuting in it, and you'll enjoy the low commuting running costs even more. EV range and this car's frugality stats are difficult to better in this segment. Yes, particularly if you've seen other BYDs, you might hope for more avant-garde styling and a more charismatic cabin. But for everyone who thinks that, there'll be others who, like us, actually appreciate the conservative, restrained vibe and the plush, smartly built, well-equipped interior, all of which would probably justify a much higher price than the Chinese maker is charging here. At first glance, the Seal U DM-i looks very good value indeed, a proposition which becomes even better when you factor in strong equipment levels that include items that rivals don't even offer as options. In short, we're minded to recommend this PHEV Seal very strongly. Still want that family-sized EV? We try one of these first.